Hi everyone. I want to read another piece from Idries Shah Remembered and another piece by my father's secretary, Helena Edwards, who was just the most amazing person I've ever known. I've called it Selflessness. For all the books I had typed, for all the words I had transcribed, it was in that moment, in the cafe in Vladivostok, at the station, I truly understood something about Idries Shah. He was not just a writer or a teacher or a collector of stories, but he was a man who lived by the lessons he taught, quietly and without expectation of recognition. And that, perhaps, was the greatest teaching of all. That encounter in Siberia reminds me of something that once happened at Langton House. It was a late autumn afternoon, the kind of day where the light is honey-colored but carries the very first, softest scent of winter cold. The gardens, always a place of quiet industry, were being put to rest for the colder months. Leaves raked into piles, the last apples gathered, the flower beds turned and left to breathe. I had spent the morning at my typewriter, retyping a draft of Shah's new book, Wisdom of the Idiots. By mid-afternoon, my hands were stiff and my mind clouded. Stepping outside to stretch my legs, I found Shah standing outside the schoolroom, which had been a garage at one time. He was gazing up at a sprawling fig tree tethered to the stone wall. I got the sense that the figs, which were so alien to Langton Green, reminded him of another part of his life. Spotting me, Shah gestured to a little wooden bench poised beside the children's sandpit. We both sat down. Then, after a moment, he said, "When I was young, I heard a story that stuck in my mind. Would you like to hear it?" I nodded, knowing that when Shah offered a story, it was never really just a story. Leaning back, he gazed up to the fig trees, his eyes glazing over with memory. "There was once a merchant," he said in a gentle, deliberate tone, "a merchant who traveled to the great deserts, buying and selling, always seeking a profit. He was clever, this merchant, so clever that he prided himself on being cheated, on never being cheated, never giving away anything without ensuring he gained far more in return. But one day, he was making his way through a particularly harsh stretch of desert when he saw a small pilgrim caravan in trouble. Their water had run out, their camels were weak, and their supplies were almost gone. A man from the caravan approached him and begged for help. "Share your water with us. Share it, please," he pleaded, "or else we will die before we even reach the next town." The merchant frowned. "If I give you my water, I may not have enough for myself. So what will I gain in return?" The man from the caravan spread his hands. "Nothing," he said. "We have nothing left to trade." The merchant hesitated. He was not a cruel man, but had lived by the principle that one must always make a fair exchange. And so he rode on, leaving the desperate travelers behind. I shifted on the bench, feeling the inevitability of what was coming. And in his own time, Shah continued. A few days later, the merchant reached the town and made his trades, he told me, counting his profits with deep satisfaction. And after refreshing his supplies, he set off once again into the desert. But on the second evening, a fierce and unrelenting sandstorm struck. The merchant lost his way. For 2 days he wandered. His own water had been spilt and his strength was fading. Just when he thought he would die in the desert, he saw a little pilgrim caravan ahead. Recognizing it as the same one he had refused to help, he stumbled towards them and he begged for water. The leader of the caravan, the very man who had pleaded with him only days before, looked at him and said, "What will you give us in return?" The merchant, now desperate, said, "Anything you ask." The leader of the caravan smiled sadly and handed him water without asking for any payment. Then he said, "You still do not understand, do you? If you had given without expecting, you would have received without needing to beg." So Shah let the words settle, watching me as I absorbed the meaning. "And what happened to the merchant?" I asked. He shrugged. "That depends on the listener. Some say he changed his ways. Some say he remained as he was, only more bitter. But that's not the point." I frowned. "Then what is the point?" Shah tapped his fingers lightly against the armrest of the bench. "The point is that most people only understand generosity when they find themselves in need. True selflessness is to give before you know why you should." We sat there a while longer, and then I went back to retyping the manuscript. That evening, I thought about the story, about the way it had been told so simply, yet contained a depth that was almost impossible to ignore. I had often seen Shah's legendary generosity, always provided anonymously, but I had seen it because I worked there at Langton House. And I lost count of how many times he asked me to pay for something on his behalf, but with strict instructions that the gift was to be given in the name of someone else or without any name attached to it at all.